It was another normal day at an ordinary high school when there was an announcement on the intercom.
Attention students and staff. We are now under secure protocol. I repeat, we are now under secure protocol.
There was no concern amongst the students. After all, this was a somewhat common occurrence, and secure protocol meant it wasn't serious. But some of the staff grew uneasy from this, for they had received a peculiar email regarding the announcement. Unbeknownst to the students, there was a report of someone shoving onions up people's asses just a couple blocks down the road. The faculty was informed that if the situation were to escalate, or the perpetrator were to move closer to the school, they would be put under immediate lockdown. While some teachers contemplated informing their students, all of the teachers decided to keep it discreet to prevent any unnecessary panic. While this was transpiring, a boy named Sam sat inside the PAC, minding his own business. He was on his laptop, working on late assignments while listening to a customized playlist of Shrek music. All Star by Smash Mouth was blasting in his ear. It took all of his willpower to prevent himself from singing at the top of his lungs. Sam had faintly heard the announcement, but paid it no attention. After all, secure protocol didn't really mean anything. Everything was going to be okay. Sam began jamming out to Bad Reputation by Half-Cocked, while working on a kick-ass story for his English class. Meanwhile, a figure was steadily approaching the school campus. Security tried to intercept it as soon as it got on campus, but it was futile. They weren't even able to warn the school. The figure immediately went straight for the administration office. It only took a few seconds to finish them off. The bitch of a vice principal turned on the intercom to warn the students and staff of the danger. But all that was heard were screams and Scottish laughter. Terror struck everyone in the school. Since no one knew for sure what was happening, everyone remained in their classrooms. The 100 hallway was the first to witness the figure. With the strength of 1,000 suns, a classroom door was broken down. In the doorway stood the figure. It was Shrek. The entire class let out a blood-curdling scream heard across the hall. Before they knew it, onions were shoved up their asses. The classes down the hallway heard the commotion and went into a panicked frenzy. Students and teachers were running in every direction to escape. This panic spread throughout the school. Inside the PAC, you could faintly hear the screams of the students and faculty. Most of the students inside the auditorium took this as a sign to leave campus. During this, Sam was still listening to Accidentally in Love by Counting Crows at full volume. He looked up from his awesome story to see people fleeing the auditorium. Students were tripping and stepping over each other in an attempt to get to safety. Sam just sat there in his seat, dumbfounded. He watched the side doors of the auditorium shut. But as he did, he saw a large, green figure chase after the students that just fled. What followed was the muffled screams of fear and agony. Sam slowly stood from his seat, contemplating whether he should escape from a different exit. His eyes stayed glued to the door that led to dozens of students' deaths as he backed away from it. That's when he heard a loud bang come from the door. The metal door shook from someone attempting to break in. But it was locked from the inside. No one could get in, right? Before Sam got the chance to start running, the door burst open. A glorious creature stood before him. It was Shrek. Time appeared to stand still for what seemed like an eternity. The screams and thuds of students fleeing were gone. Sam's music playlist had paused. All that could be heard was Sam's breathing and his heartbeat. He couldn't believe what, or rather who, stood in front of him. Shrek stood ominously in the doorway. His monstrous body blocked out most of the light coming from the outside, and his body was stained with blood. Shrek's devilish grin petrified Sam, but what snapped him back to reality was Shrek's voice.
What are you doing in my swamp?
He bellowed. This brought Sam back to his senses, and the weight of the situation finally dawned upon him. Sam's fight-or-flight instincts kicked in, and he fled in the opposite direction of Shrek. Right as he started running, Sam's playlist started playing All-Star by Smash Mouth again. But it was slowed and distorted, and he could hear Shrek yelling out different phrases.
Ogres are like onions.
Luckily, Shrek's voice became harder to hear. This brought some relief to Sam. He rounded a corner and came to an exit, but it was locked shut. Sam tried with all his might to force it open, to no avail. Shrek's voice could be heard again, and it was growing louder.
Are like onions.
An overwhelming dread came upon Sam. He was trapped inside the theater with Shrek. Sam was faced with two options: hide from Shrek indefinitely, or try to escape through the door Shrek entered from. Hiding from Shrek until he gave up was a death sentence. The only viable option for survival was to escape from that entrance. But it was too risky to head back the same way. If Sam wanted to make it out of there alive, he had to be cautious. Then, an idea struck him. Sam knew the layout of the theater like the back of his hand. Hell, he could navigate with his eyes closed, which is what his plan derived from. Sam took off as fast as he could towards the very back corner of the backstage. It was there that he found the light switches for the entire auditorium. In one fell swoop, he switched all of the switches off. Everything was cloaked in pitch black. While Sam may have lost his sight and the eeriness of the situation increased, his other senses were also heightened, and he still knew how to escape. He heard Shrek roar a mighty roar, and a crash followed. He wasn't far from him. This signaled Sam to take off. Due to not being able to see, Sam wasn't able to run at full speed, but at least he wasn't being caught. Sam may have gotten a head start on Shrek, but he could still hear the mighty ogre. His heavy footsteps could still be faintly heard and felt, and you could hear his sexy voice echo.
Ogres are like onions.
Shrek bellowed from the darkness. Every movement Sam took felt 1,000 times louder than before. You could hear his exasperated breathing. You could hear his heart beating out of his chest. You could even hear his blood rush from the adrenaline. But Sam wasn't the only one who noticed this. Shrek picked up on this with his mighty ogre senses, and more. Shrek could smell the faint scent of salt from Sam's sweat. It intoxicated Shrek. Like a shark getting a whiff of blood, Shrek darted in the direction the smell was coming from. The thumps of Shrek's gigantic feet caused Sam to panic. With his location already revealed, Sam was forced to sprint. The roaring from Shrek grew louder and louder once more. In a vain attempt to slow down Shrek, Sam toppled over tables and slabs of wood. This was futile, as Shrek burst through the obstacles without effort. But there was a silver lining in this. The tables had paint cans on top of them, so all of the paint was spilled out. The aroma of cheap paint filled Shrek's nose and temporarily stunned him. This sparked a new idea in Sam's head. He immediately started heading towards the cabinet where all of the paint was stored. In a few short seconds, Sam reached the cabinet and opened it. What stood before him were dozens of paint cans filled to the brim. Sam grabbed the can directly in front of him, and with all the strength he could muster, he chucked the can across the room. A loud clang reverberated through the room, and all of the paint spilled on the floor. Sam could hear Shrek run after the sound. He grabbed another can and threw it in a different direction. A clatter was heard as the can hit a table on the floor. Sam continued to throw more paint cans. Soon, the entire room was covered in paint splotches. The smell of paint permeated the room. Sam coated his clothes in paint with the last can to masquerade his boyish odor. The camouflage Sam created gave him the confidence to continue towards the exit. Along the way, he grabbed random objects off tables. He threw brushes and pencils at random places to confuse Shrek. The discombobulation worked, and Sam was able to make it to the auditorium. Sam had a clear sight to the double-door entrance. With a surge of eagerness and adrenaline, he booked it to the doors. In a split moment, he made it to the doors. Sam pulled, but the doors didn't open. He pulled again, but the doors didn't budge. Sam pulled on the doors over and over again with all his strength, but the doors were locked shut.